Hi, I'm Thomas Lamb. I'm CEO of Myriad Uranium Corp. We are a uranium explorer and developer listed in Canada, the US, and Frankfurt. We have two projects, Copper Mountain Uranium Project in Wyoming. It's a large-scale uranium project that's seen a huge amount of investment, 2,000 boreholes, 7 deposits, lots of prospects. Our second project is the Red Basin Project in New Mexico. It's a sandstone-hosted roll-front project, indicated, inferred historic resources, not 43101, but with great prospectivity and vanadium.
Tom, good to see you, sir. Right, okay, lots going on with you at the moment. We're raising money, we've got mergers, we've got projects, and we've got assays to talk about today. So first of all, maybe let's deal with the money bit first and get that out of the way. Went out for 6, came back with 8.6. Obviously, things went well.
It did. We're really happy. Lots of interest. Research Capital, Red Cloud, came to us with a bought deal. We carefully considered it, and we decided to take the money. And of course, we did better than expected. So we're really pleased. Gives us a lot of flexibility, options as to how to advance the company.
Well, yeah, I guess it gives you a few more headaches in the sense that you've got to work out how to allocate it and where to allocate it. Did you go out with a kind of clear vision of what you wanted to do in terms of, Copper Mountain drilling, Red Basin, or just general? Well, I guess I'm going to call it G&A. I'm putting mergers under G&A. So how do you allocate it?
So we put out a news release a few months ago that talked about what we call the Bendix report, the U.S. Department of Energy assessment of Copper Mountain dated 1982. And it assessed that Copper Mountain has a uranium endowment of 655 million pounds. That's in a big area around us, and 245 million pounds in a more discrete area, central area. We have about 70% of that acreage. That means we need to expand to take up more of that acreage that relates to that assessment. That's a huge amount of uranium. That's just down to 600 feet. So expanding acreage costs money. So we knew that we wanted to spend money on that. Then, of course, we have a lot of drilling to do. Copper Mountain, just to refresh your viewers, saw $85 million US dollars spent in today's dollars by Union Pacific Railway, backed by California Edison, Southern California Edison, in the 1970s. And they had a plan to start large-scale conventional production at Copper Mountain in 1983. And it was a big plan. It was quite advanced, did a huge amount of work, but they'd only drilled the areas that were easy to access. And so we have acquired over the past few years the areas that were easy to access. Now we have this Bendix report that says there's a lot more uranium than a lot of people previously thought. And there are a lot of areas that maybe they're over the hill or around the bend that need to see drilling too. So we've raised money to bring historical resources current. Those are the old Union Pacific resources. Advance the prospects that are in the periphery around the core area. Lots of exciting historic but preliminary work there. For example, 3, 5, 8 boreholes that had exciting results in the 1970s. 85 feet of 1200 ppm, that type of thing. That's equivalent grade, which maybe will get boosted with disequilibrium. And then, these other areas that we strongly believe have a lot of uranium in them because of this Bendix assessment and other work. So the money has been raised to increase acreage, bring historic resources current, and most importantly, go after these prospects and prospective areas. It's going to, hopefully turn Copper Mountain into, one of the big projects in North America. And so that's what the money's for. Plus some work in New Mexico.
Right. Okay. So let's. I want to give kind of comfort to your shareholders and people looking at the charts and so forth. Look, what have we got? We got 21.5 million new units. You got 1.2-ish broker warrants out, the stock's reacted like it has. I think the warrant play is happening here. How do you treat that? Is it a case of take the money and get on with it and create value and just accept that there's going to be a bunch of like new buying in the market? Do you see it as a negative, or is this, or I mean, how do you view it?
Well, we knew that there would be some warrant stripping, and often, these folks. This is my view. They see this coming. Maybe they get ready to short the stock. Bought deal happens. These guys, sell the share, hold the warrant. And so we anticipate that because that's what you see. Of course, as management, we're debating this, or we've all been around. Do you take this money, which we can put to very good use, knowing that there's probably going to be a bit of an impact on the stock, but you don't know for sure. I mean, maybe the fact that we have these great uranium projects plus a lot more cash is going to lead to a boost. You see that too, right? Everybody is excited. We're cashed up. We're at almost $10 million cash in the bank, and we have tons of uranium. So we decided to take the money effectively, but the stock has been hit. I mean, there's been a fair amount of selling, and we think it's confusing, or it's confusing to us why it's been so significant. But on the other side of it, we have a lot of smart money funds, sophisticated groups that are on the buy side, and they're just absolutely buying every share. And you've seen there's a huge amount of volume, and we know the people that are buying it up, I think, and they're very excited about the future. So they think this is a tremendous opportunity to get a big multiple of their investment if they buy right now. But yes, conscious of this, I regret it for the investors that were thinking we were going to just go straight up, and that we haven't. I'm sorry about that, but we're in a great position.
Yeah, I think I'd say it's one of those things. That's the way the market is at the moment. And by the way, remind everyone, it's never a straight line up. You put a lot of work in to kind of get the right people on the register for sure. With the warrants though, their strike price is about 60 cents. So you got to kind of get back up there and get on with it for sure. To do that, what are the kind of tools available to you? Previously you've really kind of been meticulous in terms of conversations and the people, etc. But now you're at that point where I've got some money, I need to do something with it specifically, and things like do you do a sort of North American listing, whether NASDAQ or otherwise? I mean, how do you play this?
We want to list in the U.S., have a proper listing in the U.S. We have options. We can do it ourselves. We have. There are groups that want to help us, whether that's with a NASDAQ or NYSE listed, you call them shells, or companies that are already active. We could combine with them. So we think that's how we're going to get a big, help us get a really big return. We have a lot of U.S. people that are interested in investing in the company. It's not ideal that we have a Canadian primary listing, even though we have an OTC ticker. We think we can get a big return by listing in the U.S. We're on it.
Okay, and in terms of just trying to understand that, obviously you work with Red Cloud on the raise. They'll have had some kind of pushback and insight from institutional interest. This appetite for North American projects. Yours, obviously Wyoming focused. What did they say about those sorts of conversations with strategic uranium buyers and institutions?
Well, we have some advisors also. So there's Red Cloud and research, but we have key people that are helping us, and that are closely connected with institutions that are quite interested in us. But we want to get a U.S. listing. Somewhat separate from that, we want to get our market cap up above the, for example, $30 and $50 million threshold, so that we get ETF inclusion. That'll be helpful. Also, if we're over $50 million market cap, then a lot of funds are able to invest in us. We talk to funds, and sometimes they say we're extremely interested. As soon as you meet our criteria, we're investing. So we're a bit small. So these are all different but related things. ETF inclusion, market cap minimums, listed in the United States. So we're doing that step by step. Rush, the merger with Rush, we put out a news release that said that the LOI, we've run through the 60-day window on the LOI. Just for your audience, we had to put that news release out in order to advance our bought deal. And that's because we had to make sure there was no undisclosed, potentially material information. However, the merger talks with Russia are still continuing. And there's nothing wrong, nothing negative has happened. We just taken a little longer than we had anticipated in the letter of intent. So merging with Rush, that'll increase our market cap also, and also give us 100% ownership of the Copper Mountain asset. That's another factor. Actually, people are coming back at us saying, great asset. We're very excited about company management, now cash position. But if you could own 100% of the asset and not have divided ownership, that would be even better. Kind of 1 + 1 = 3. So go do that too. So we're working on that.
Okay, so that was the bankers saying, look, you need to disclose the fact that we've run out of time on that on paper, but not the conversations have not stopped. Okay,
that's right.
What are the kind of unresolved issues that are left to negotiate? Is it purely financial, or is there more to?
I'll know more in a couple of days. So we have independent committees that actually the independent committee of the Myriad board, independent committee of the Rush board, and they are connecting. I think it's fine for me to say that they have an independent advisor on the Rush side, and they've been finalizing their work with that independent advisor, and that has been what we've been waiting for. And we ran up against the timing when we accepted the bought deal, and so we had to delay interacting with their independent advisor. So we're going to just resume that process because we'll be effectively acquiring them. And so we'll see what they say. And so there is no issue. There is no contention between the parties. Okay. We just have to re-engage.
So it's not a question of one side or the other kind of gaining or losing leverage here. This is just
correct.
The administrative function. Okay.
That's right. We had to pause everything to complete the bought deal. Just no interaction, and then we could pick it up again, just so it wouldn't disturb the bought deal. Bought deal actually is, for those of you who, it's a little bit like M&A. You don't want any kind of material, anything to impact the company while you're in the middle of it, if you can avoid it. So we just...
Okay. And what happens if it kind of, for whatever reason, both parties cannot come together on this merger? What does that look like? What's Myriad look like?
We will earn up to 75% of the asset. We're currently at 50%. So we probably have another $500,000 to $750,000 Canadian to spend at Copper Mountain. We'll be at 75-25. We'll then flip into a joint venture arrangement where we both spend money to maintain our interests and advance the project that way. So that's
okay.
The alternative.
So what are the options there? Because obviously a merger, presumably it'll be all shares, but is there full back in terms of just outright acquiring for cash, or?
Yeah, that's we haven't been talking about that. We'd like to do a share exchange. It's best for tax purposes. About two Canadian companies, you get rollover treatment, so everybody just continues with their cost base. So that's why you do share for share exchange. But could we acquire them for cash? If the money was there and that turned out to be the best deal, we'd consider it, but we're not at the moment. It would be a share exchange as things stand.
Okay, and if it didn't come to pass, obviously, and you get that 75% in terms of,
yep.
How would that affect things like operator status or funding responsibilities or board compensation and all that kind of good complicated stuff that happens?
It's Myriad. Myriad's the operator.
Okay.
We run the project. We decide the budgets. We spend the money. Rush would have to raise money to keep up with us. Now that they're spending. Yep.
And obviously, I'm going through this process and not quite obviously getting over the line yet, but seem to be hopefully.
Yeah, never any guarantees. That's right.
Yeah, we were in Wyoming back in September. Yeah, well, I was there back in September. It's clear there's a lot of roll-up opportunities there. With public and private assets available. I mean, what's your sort of take on the desire for that? Obviously, you talk with Red Cloud, you get independent advisors. You're getting a lot of feedback. What's the mood?
Well, it's generally good, but if you for your audience that follows uranium closely, things really change week to week, month to month. There could be a month where everybody's extremely excited, the phone's ringing, bankers are jazzed. It's roll up time, it's fundraise time, and then the next month, things go quieter, and then for the spot price drops $2, but the long-term contracting price keeps going up. But spot price drops $2. There's a market reaction. Everybody's in the business where things just keep getting better and better. The fundamentals are amazing. Supply demand imbalance is not being remedied, and yet the spot price drops a couple dollars. Things go quiet for a week or a month, but then it's back on all of a sudden. So what's the mood like? Fundamentally, we're all excited. I think roll-ups are coming. I think U.S. entities see U.S. projects as extremely appetizing. We have this uranium designated critical mineral in the U.S. Very recently. You've got all this fast-track permitting, grants, tax breaks. You've got sovereign funds and state sovereign funds available. Wyoming, New Mexico, matching funds in Wyoming for drilling. You've got some great funding coming into New Mexico. And I've said this before, I thought it would happen sooner, but you've got tech VCs, you've got utilities. Utilities are a little slow and, they got their own way of doing things. You've got software companies, data AI companies, et cetera. So they're coming in directly or indirectly via proxies. I would say via proxies. I was going to say directly, but it's all, they're coming in too. So the roll-ups are happening. They're going to be acquiring uranium in the ground. And then of course the fuel cycle, they're also investing in the conversion and enrichment, whether it's conversion and enrichment tech or just expansion of existing, conversion and enrichment. So it's all happening in the background. It's all, but it's, today would be great if it was all happening today. But it's soon. I'm really confident it's going to happen soon.
Okay. Yeah. It's the mysteries of the uranium market. Yeah.
It's funny.
It intrigue us.
I was out with a uranium analyst last night here. I'm in New York for some meetings, and we were out having a beer after a day and talking to him, and he's, he reiterated the utilities are way behind here. The problems are very real. This is coming. There is no escape. Uranium, the shortages are real. The geopolitics are real. The utilities have not been helping with the investment in exploration development, to find uranium and build new mines. So, the reality is going to hit. I'll also say he reiterated his view that Myriad is the call option on uranium in the U.S. I just really like that tag, but it's because of our giant endowment of uranium, especially at Copper Mountain, and that as prices rise, the world will come for it. But yeah, all this is going to come. It's just a matter of when.
Well, let's talk Copper Mountain. Obviously, and I'm probably going to give it a little bit of old ground here. and I'm not going to get you to explain radiometric disequilibrium per se, but can you give me an update on, I think you put something out in the middle of last month, the chemical assays?
Yep. Okay. So Union Pacific drilled 2,000 holes in the 1970s. They used gamma probe and DFN probe to estimate uranium content of the rock. They did not assay the rocks, particularly once in a while, but generally they didn't. So they did their estimates, their feasibility studies, mine planning, based on the gamma and DFN results. They knew those results were very conservative, but they were the best they had. They used fluorometric methods. This is shining light of certain spectra on the rock. Uranium really reflects back, and they were able to estimate uranium grades, and those results always came back quite a bit higher than their probe results. But they disregarded the fluorometrics in favor of their gamma and DFN results. Fast forward to today. So again, they planned a large-scale uranium mine based on those probe results. We drilled a year ago. We probed the holes with our gamma probe, and we got excellent results, better than anticipated relative to what we see in the historical data. So we, maybe our probe is better, maybe we have more luck, but we got excellent results a year ago. Lots of intercepts out of 34 holes. We got 30 intercepts over 1,000 ppm and equivalent grades up to 8,060 ppm. But because now assays are cheaper than they used to be, and we really wanted to understand the project, we sent all of our equivalent grade intercepts to the laboratory for verification. When we sent them to the lab, get the results back, we first of all confirmed that all the uranium is there that we thought was there, or the probe detected. But turns out anything over 1,000 ppm equivalent grade, i.e. the probe detected 1,000 ppm or higher of uranium, actually there's 60% on average more uranium in that rock than the probe was able to detect. Anything with 500 ppm or higher, turns out there's 50% more uranium. So where the probe says 500 ppm, the confirmed grade is 750 ppm, etc. 1,000 ppm, confirmed grade is 1,600 ppm, and so on. Well, what we also did is we assayed sort of the ends of these intervals. So a meter or two where the probe didn't detect any uranium, but just to be sure, for QA/QC and just out of curiosity. Well, a lot of that came back with significant uranium in it when we assayed, to our surprise. So it turns out, 50 ppm, which would be waste, 50 ppm rock. Some of that came back with several hundred ppm, which would be, you put that, you process that. Very exciting result. So this is what we news released recently. So we sent 700 and some odd, almost 800 additional samples to the laboratory. These are zones in our drilling from a year ago where our probe detected either no uranium or very little uranium, but for various reasons, our geologist, George Fundervalt, thought, okay, well, there's a chance there might be significant uranium here based on what we're seeing. With this disequilibrium, the probe is not detecting uranium, but there's either a lot more, or the probe is detecting uranium, but you assay it and there's very little uranium, less than you expect. In our case, the disequilibrium favors us. There's more uranium than the probe detects. Fantastic. What we released a month ago, or two, is that indeed a lot of this rock that we thought was going to be waste has a lot of uranium in it. We've taken grades up significantly, these sort of, 20, 50, 7,500 ppm zones, maybe we're up into the hundreds of ppm. And in some cases, the boosts were really significant. So obviously that transforms things. So again, this was going to be a large-scale conventional mine. Union had planned it. with all of this waste, because they had a, whether it's 100 or 200 ppm cutoff grade, depending on the model. Actually, it turns out a lot of the rock that they thought was, so here's the point, a lot of the rock that they thought was going to be waste is uraniferous. Has more uraniferous than they thought and than we thought. So this is a very significant result that expands the grade shells, and it also increases the amount of uranium inside those grade shells. So a fantastic result. I don't know that, there's some digestion of that news in the market, but it's maybe a little bit complex. But over time, and we're going to have a 43-101 out before too long. We're drafting a big 43-101 because there's a huge amount of information. We're going to explain that to everybody.
Okay, so, what is it? Just in simple terms. There's 34 holes, right? So 70 intervals over 34 holes. What does it tell you in terms of lateral continuity or stacked horizons or even deeper, higher grade zones? Have you got any data on that yet?
Continuity, I can't comment on continuity particularly because of the nature of the rock. It's fractured basement rock, granite. So continuity is a question. It's not like roll front sandstone where you can, or other types of mineralization where it's a little bit easier. So horizons, we are finding, am I allowed to say new zones? I don't know. There's uranium where in these gaps where we didn't think there was uranium. So and then the zones where the probe is picking up uranium, turns out there's a lot more uranium there. So brand new horizons. I probably can't say that brand new horizons other than these, the zones in between the previously understood zones actually have a fair amount of uranium. Deeper, we have encountered uranium down to 1,495 feet. That is below the 600-foot hard deck, what we call the hard deck that Union drilled down to. Union in the 1970s was only concerned with mineralization down to 600 feet. We've drilled deeper holes. We found uranium a lot deeper. That's potentially very exciting.
Okay, and are the guys, I should say, are they on the hunt? Well, in terms of trying to understand, things like the structural controls here, alteration zones that could help you redefine or define, I should say, the scale of the system. How much work's been done on that, and what are you seeing?
Right at the tail end of their tenure in the 1970s, Union Pacific got onto this. For example, a big fault east to west across the project area may be really relevant to uranium coming up from below. That was a thesis that was explored by Anaconda, one of the Anaconda companies, just to the west of us. Just people look at a map of our project at Railroad, which we now own. We acquired this area. Anaconda went in there a few decades ago trying to understand whether there's this deeper uranium that maybe goes across the whole project. They drilled down to 1,000 feet. They found uranium at 940 feet, and then some other deeper intercepts. Maybe there is deeper uranium across the project. So we drilled down to 1,600 feet, 1,490 feet. We encountered, now with the assays, up to 800 and some odd ppm. This supports the thesis that they're, big structure east to west. If that really drives uranium from below, and it is indeed an unconformity style situation, then that's potentially very, very exciting. There's more structures. I mean, this is structurally controlled. There's an east-west fault called the Canning Fault, and we drilled the Canning deposit that also goes east-west, just at the base of the hills. And we're learning more about that, whether that, all the mineralization seems to be on the south side of that fault. And coming off the hills, meteoric waters, etc., and then getting picked up and then deposited into the structures just to the south of that. We're learning more about that. Something really important here related to this, I hope I can link it clearly, but Union Pacific in the 60s and 70s, but mostly the 70s, drilled the easy to access areas at Copper Mountain. It's a hilly area. They basically went up the valleys and the ridges that were easy to, and then they drilled those areas. They found lots of uranium. Where they found uranium, they kept drilling, drilled out deposits, planned a mine. But to the left and right, and in the around the corner where it's a little harder to access, we're going to need some earth moving equipment to cut roads. Not expensive, easy rock to move. Those areas have not been drilled, but or maybe only one or two holes where they, it was hard to get to, and they did it at the end of their tenure in the late 1970s. There's uranium there too. Bendix in 1982, they did a lot of their own work. Basically, that was one of the conclusions of this report. There's a lot more uranium at Copper Mountain. You just have to start going to the places that Union didn't drill, or drilled minimally, or only at the end. The structures that we're talking about, this potential deep structure east-west, and then the Canning Fault and some other cross-cutting faults that control things. We actually just have to follow those, and there may be the Canning deposit is the big deposit at Copper Mountain out of the 7. And one of the conclusions of the report and other related reports is that there may be a lot more Cannings. Again, that's a big deposit at Copper Mountain. There may be a lot more Cannings at Copper Mountain. And so we're going to go after those. And the structures help lead the way.
Well, I mean, just on that, how you go about chasing this, and you mentioned, defining a 43101 compliant resource. You've got the 7 known deposits. You've also got this 600-page Bendix study. I think we've talked in the past where you're looking to digitize a lot of this historic data. In terms of kind of bringing all that together, are you doing that at the moment? When do you expect to be in a position to actually use that, convert that into a 3D model?
It's actively being put into our systems.
Okay.
Almost all of it, I think, has already been digitized and added to our model. So we're leveraging that right now. In terms of the Bendix data and microfiches and everything, I think, that's processes still ongoing, but it's fantastic. So that's going to inform our drill program. We have a drill program, a drill plan. We've bonded 70 holes out of the 222 that we just permitted, and but we are going to keep evolving that plan with this new data that we're adding to our systems. But a lot of it is already in our system.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yep.
It is exciting. I kind of like the sort of deeper drilling and trying to understand if there's opportunity.
I'll remind your viewers, as soon as we drilled that intercept and put it out, just the equivalent grade. I did get some great phone calls from colleagues at other companies in Wyoming, some of the big companies saying, "Whoa, this is really exciting that you found uranium down there." Quite unexpected, significant amount. If this thesis holds across the bottom of the, a little bit deeper in the project, look out, right? So, and this Bendix report that was only down to 600 feet, this 655 million pounds in the broader area, 245 million pounds in a more closer area that we have 70% of. By the way, we have 70% of the 245 million pounds, and I always have to insert, these are not 43101 compliant resource pounds, et cetera. This is 1982 estimate of contained uranium down to 600 feet. But 600. But what sits below that?
There lies the opportunity.
Big opportunity. Yeah, potentially.
Big opportunity. Well, Tom, I just wanted to kind of check in with you, obviously, after this raise and sort of see what you're going to be focused in on. And it sounds like it's all guns firing at Copper Mountain. Let's kind of hook up, and we can talk a little bit, obviously, about plans at Red Basin and obviously over where you got to with the merger. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Always great to see you. Thanks, Matthew.